All right, so oil rigs, right? These massive structures out there in the ocean doing some seriously heavy lifting, literally. Ever stop to wonder what keeps those things running day and night?
It's mind-boggling when you think about the sheer scale of the operation.
Absolutely. And at the heart of it all, there's this often overlooked role, the oil rig motorhand.
Ah, the Motorhand, yeah.
We're going deep on this career path today, and we've got some great insights from RoleCatcher to guide us. They've got this detailed career guide, even cover things like interview prep and job applications, which is super helpful.
Yeah, and it's a role that tends to get, I don't know, stereotyped a bit, you know? People hear Motorhand and they picture someone elbow deep in grease, tucked away
Oh,
somewhere.
totally. Like a wrench-swinging, oil-stained kind of gig.
Exactly. But the reality is, it's so much more than that. This role catcher guide really opens your eyes to the breadth of the role.
Well, and you think about it, keeping the engine running takes on a whole new meaning when you're talking about an entire oil rig.
Yeah.
I,
Right. We're not talking about a single engine here. This is about maintaining a whole symphony of equipment, hydraulic systems, electrical components, the works, making sure it all hums along smoothly.
and I imagine the pressure is immense. The guide talks about how expensive downtime is for these operations.
Oh, absolutely. Every minute that rig isn't pumping is money down the drain, literally.
Mm.
So troubleshooting, diagnosing problems quickly and effectively, that's a core skill for these guys.
Wow, talk about high stakes. Okay, so we've got the brawn part down, but then the guide throws in this curveball about advanced monitoring systems and even, wait for it, automation.
Yeah, that caught my eye too.
Like, are we talking robots taking over the oil rigs now?
Not quite robots, but it's fascinating how technology is changing the game. We're talking sensor arrays feeding back real-time data, algorithms predicting potential issues before they even happen.
Hold on, so these motor hands are working with, like, digital dashboards and stuff now.
Mm.
That's a far cry from the image I had.
Right. It's this blend of traditional mechanical expertise and a growing need for tech savviness. The guide even mentions specific certifications that are becoming increasingly valuable.
So they need to be a master mechanic and a bit of a systems analyst rolled into one.
Exactly. It's not enough to be good with your hands anymore. You got to be adaptable, a quick learner, able to troubleshoot in both the physical and digital worlds.
That's wild. And I bet that really changes the type of person who succeeds in this role.
Absolutely.
And speaking of adapting, this guide doesn't shy away from the, well, the work environment.
Right. It's not exactly a walk in the park out there on a rig.
It paints a pretty vivid picture, right? Long hours, tough conditions, miles from shore.
Yeah, and this guide, to its credit, doesn't sugarcoat it. Like, they have this whole section on typical interactions, and it really struck me how much they emphasize teamwork.
Which makes sense, right? Out there in the middle of nowhere, things could go wrong pretty quickly.
Exactly. And when that happens, you need to be able to rely on the people around you. The guide even uses this phrase, coordination under pressure. It's not just about being a skilled mechanic. It's about clear communication, knowing when to lead, when to follow, and how to stay calm when things get intense.
Like the stakes are already so high, then you add in the isolation, the weather.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
And suddenly a calm demeanor and good communication skills are just as important as, well, knowing your way around a turbine, like you said.
Absolutely. And, that actually ties back to what we were talking about earlier with technology changing things.
Right, right.
Because the guide mentions how these new systems, all this automation and data, it actually requires even more collaboration.
Oh, absolutely. You've got motor hands working alongside all sorts of specialists on these rigs now. It's a real team effort.
So it's becoming less about being like a lone wolf mechanic and more about being a team player in this high-tech environment.
Exactly. And that's something to really consider, especially when you look at the career progression path that the guide outlines.
Oh, yeah, they talk about how you can start as an assistant
Mm.
and then potentially work your way up to leading a team of your own.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But I imagine that's, not a walk in the park either.
Definitely not. This guide really stresses that continuous learning is essential. They highlight certifications, special training programs. They even talk about keeping up with industry publications.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a career that really demands you to stay ahead of the curve, What's cutting edge today might be obsolete tomorrow, so you got to be ready to adapt.
Which makes sense, right? With how rapidly technology is evolving.
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. That constant need to adapt and learn new things. It's a big takeaway from this guide.
Okay, so we've talked about the demanding work, the teamwork aspect, the need to constantly be learning, but let's be real for a second. Everyone wants to know about the perks. And thankfully, This guide dives into the pros and cons as well.
Uh-huh.
And let's be real, when you're working in those kinds of conditions, the compensation better be good, right?
Yeah, you'd hope so. And the guide doesn't disappoint there. They call out the high earning potential right away.
Okay, so that's going to be a big draw for anyone thinking about this line of work. But then there's the other side of the coin.
Right.
Long hours, being away from home for extended periods. Those aren't just bullet points on a job description, are they?
No, definitely not. Those are lifestyle considerations for sure. And I think the guide does a good job of really framing it that way, you know. It's not just about the money, it's about finding the right fit. It's like, are you someone who actually thrives in those high pressure environments? Do you enjoy that kind of hands-on problem solving?
Right. Are you okay with being away from family, friends, all that for weeks or even months at a time?
Exactly.
It's almost like they're interviewing you, the reader, to see if you've got what it takes.
It kind of is like that. Because this isn't the type of job you just fall into, you know? It takes a special kind of person to really thrive out there.
Someone who can handle the pressure, the isolation, that constant need to adapt to new challenges.
Absolutely. And speaking of adapting, you know, this guide doesn't just leave you high and dry when it comes to actually landing one of these jobs.
Oh, right. They've got that whole section on interview prep. And it's not just generic advice either. They've got sample questions specifically for oil rig motorhand positions, which is amazing.
Yeah, and that's where their tech integration really comes into play. They have this AI-powered practice tool where you can actually simulate an interview and get feedback on your responses.
Wait, seriously? Like an AI that listens to your answers and tells you how you did?
Yep. It analyzes things like your clarity, how concise your answers are, even whether you're using industry-specific keywords.
That's incredible.
It's like having a personal career coach in your pocket, helping you put your best foot forward. And I think that really highlights a crucial point here. In a competitive job market, you need every advantage you can get.
For sure. Especially in a field as specialized as this one.
Absolutely.
So to wrap it all up, we've learned that being an oil rig motor hand is not just about being good with your hands. It's about being adaptable, a team player, tech savvy, and able to handle pressure like you wouldn't believe. It's a career path full of challenges, for sure, but it also comes with significant rewards.
Definitely. Both personally and financially.
Exactly. It's a career that keeps our world running. And, you know, after diving deep into it with RoleCatcher's insights, I got to say there's a certain coolness factor to it.
Oh, for sure. There's definitely a certain allure to it.
So to anyone listening who's ever wondered about this line of work, hopefully this has given you a clearer picture of what it really takes. And hey, maybe it's even sparked your curiosity to explore it further. That's all we've got for this deep dive. Catch you on the next one.